Here's how you create a real estate investment portfolio. Using detailed research and analysis, Strategic Investment Realty selects markets with the highest growth potential. We then choose top quality, well-selected properties that demonstrate substantial investment value. You choose one investment property at a time to start building your portfolio. Add a variety of investment properties over time in geographically diverse markets, creating a retirement income you may never outlive. It's the most advanced real estate wealth creation system in North America. Strategic Investment Realty, simplifying investing in real estate for you.
Adages: don't wait to buy real estate, buy real estate and wait. We're going to move into what has been coined the new Fort McMurray. It's apt, this nickname, because this city of 14,000 is experiencing virtually all the same growth pressures as the more prominent oil sands hub in the north, Fort McMurray, including a troublesome highway, overburdened infrastructure, and a skilled labor shortage. There is a flood of high-income earners. It's created a huge demand for housing, pushing prices higher and rents higher. The average home price was $355,000 last year, and it's expected to hit $400,000 by this year. It's ahead of Edmonton, which is around $330,000. There's a massive expansion happening in oil sands operations. You have all your major oil companies there, Cenovus, Husky, Imperial, and they're collectively cranking out about 500,000 barrels a day. The McKessis plant is scheduled to go through a major upgrade, and this is also to replace a lot of what has been aging. It requires an additional labor pool of about 300 contracts, and currently most of those contractors are being booked in hotels. So we've got Imperial, Cenovus, Canadian Natural Resources, Husky Oil. I know for the size of the town, you really have to look at the number of companies that are setting up offices and have employment there. We're talking about what the expansions are. There's major upgrades to plants, to pipeline, and this is all focused in this small area, and consequently, housing and rents are increasing rapidly. In 2010, even when the market was down, the oil sands investment increased by about $17.2 billion. It was a 63% increase from 2009. So what we're seeing is when the markets are down, big companies are putting their investments in because they can get the most bang for their buck. There's a whole new zone which is developing a drilling technique, sort of like, rather than a strip mine, they're expected to start by the end of 2014. Imperial is the new big spender on this one. The first phase is around $30 billion in the Curl Oil Sands mine, which is nearing production. Last year, Imperial gave the go-ahead to the giant Nabiye Oil Sands Expansion project. It's the largest facility in the province, and it accesses about 280 million barrels of reserves and pumps about 40,000 barrels a day, or about 2.5% of the entire Alberta production. They're looking at this expansion as requiring another 1,000 construction crew of another 1,000 people. So it's not just a one employment, one horse show. We look at other drivers in that market. We've got a lot of livestock, and we've got a lot of agriculture, and it's an agri-processing industry. They really like this area, and it is driving a lot of this economy as well. Manufacturing sales in Alberta's food processing industry hit a record last year of $11.3 billion. Meat product manufacturing accounted for more than half of this. And lastly, the Air Force Base has been there for a long time. It's the busiest fighter base in Canada, and it's currently home to nearly 5,300 regular Air Force, Reserve Force, and family members. It provides a general-purpose, multi-role, combat-capable forces in support of domestic and international roles of Canada's Air Force. Home of the fighter pilot training for the Canadian Forces, 4-Wing attracts Top Gun crews from all over the world to annual air combat exercise. 4-Wing is some of the best and most sought-after amenities in the world, including an almost unrestricted 1.17 million hectare air weapons range equipped with state-of-the-art state-of-the-art threats and targets. So this is a big stabilizer to the economy, and we talk about it because you always want a less volatile. When you're dealing with energy hubs and investment in energy hubs, there tends to be a lot more volatility than in larger urban centers or more established areas. So the Air Force brings that to this smaller community. Very low unemployment rate. When you look at it, it's half the national average. Alberta itself is the lowest in the country, and usually is experiencing labor shortage. Very, very high median income. We know that Fort McMurray, I believe the median income for Fort McMurray is around $147,000, which is quite astounding. But Cold Lake has a very high median income, which means the people that are coming there are getting high-paying jobs, can well afford to pay the rent, and are looking for quality rental accommodation if they're moving into the area. Very young population. We find this pretty typical with energy hubs. A lot of the people that are attracted there are starting out, are working in the trades industry, and we find that they'll be willing to move to further their career. So we tend to see a very young demographic, which is no different in Cold Lake. The population has risen about 15% since the census in 2006. So the last census showed a big jump in population, and now it's around 14,500. So it continues to grow at a very rapid pace, well ahead of Canada's average. Given the fact that, Craig Copeland, the mayor, says that, we're seeing a flood of high-income earners, it's created a huge demand for housing. It's keep pushing them higher. We're seeing the average price continually rising, like jumping significantly, 30 and 35%. So we'll continue to see that trend as long as the labor's there, or the jobs are there, and the jobs are high paying. We've talked a little bit about all the expansion, but to give you a grand total, it's about $135 billion in major capital projects in the Cold Lake area. So let's talk about the size of this population. 14,000, surrounding areas about 65,000 if you consider all the outlying areas. Not a lot of people, lots of investment, and Fort McMurray, if you remember and you missed that opportunity, in the mid-90s you could buy a townhome or a condo townhome for around $90,000, which rented for about $800. And now that same property is selling for at least $275 to $325. If it was a newer property, today it sells for much higher than that. But had you bought in Fort McMurray, you've done very, very well, both from a capital appreciation and a rental. And we're paralleling these two and suggesting that this is your opportunity to participate if you missed the Fort McMurray move. We're looking at the federal government has to deal with the Air Force. Families live there, and so they're looking at that aspect and how it impacts the Air Force. And they're starting to feel the pinch. Number one, there's not a lot of rental accommodation, and the price to live there is soared. So they're addressing it, and it has to be addressed so that they can maintain their base. But that again attests to the growth and the increase in all the costs of living for people that live in the area. We're in an industrial area, and the industrial heartland, which is 4 regions in the Edmonton area, which includes the Cold Lake. It's basically experienced about $20 billion worth of direct investment in the last 6 months. What it is looking at is the renewable resources, which is another whole area that we believe will take all of these outerlying areas to new levels. Government is very progressive. They've explored lots of options for using the waste and the biomass from these industries. So when we look at markets, what we'd like to see is sustainability, diversification, job growth, employment, the quality of jobs. And what we do see in Cold Lake is a very low vacancy rate. What that does is, for whatever's out there, it makes it very, very difficult to keep, that you can pretty much command what you ask on the markets. And you're going to see some cash flows tonight that support that. It's the tough thing about living in these areas is there's a very short building season. And even to keep pace with the demand, you can't build enough in one season because it's about a 4 or 5 month build season. So this is part of the problem in the northern climates. I know that in Fort St. John and Dawson Creek, that's a very similar problem. Even though there's demand and they can continue to build, they can't keep up with the pace at all. And you know, you're getting into that labor shortage. What's going to happen in that market is the oil companies and the production companies and all the service companies are able to offer more money, and all this does is it really causes the price of new product to jump because you have to pay the workers to build them, and as a consequence the finished price has to cover the cost plus make the builder some money. When we look at the rental rates, and these are obtained, there's all sorts of sources, Kijiji, Rent Board, Pad Mapper, all sorts of areas that you can collect this and do your own homework. You know, the highest rent in Alberta, or the average rent in Alberta, was quite low. If you look, not low, but it's $1,200 to $1,300 in the Edmonton area for 2-bedroom apartments. When you look in the Cold Lake area, you see the difference. Obviously, we're looking at about a $400, maybe even a $600 differential in average rents. So we're really bullish on the fact that not only is this a really good market for capital appreciation, it's an excellent market for increasing rents, and those rents staying high because demand is there and supply is very low. I'm not sure if anyone's been there. Cold Lake is the largest freshwater lake in Alberta, has the largest inland marina with 250 berths. A lot of fishing derbies, a lot of professional fishing goes on in this lake. It's well known internationally. It's spectacular natural environment. So it's very livable, and it has a lovely beach. This property is located not too far from the beach, the Plaza. We have Jason and Aaron on the call, and both of them are very familiar. I'm going to open up your mic, Jason, and let you maybe walk us through, and then when you want to move to the next slide, just tell me and I can do so.
Hi, can everybody hear me? I'm live. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Pender. My partner Aaron is on the line too. Just going back a little bit here, Aaron and I have been working in the real estate industry, whether it be finance, renovation, building, and investing for about 23 years. We were working in a couple of other areas when early last year we saw the opportunity to go to Cold Lake through somebody else we were doing business with. When we arrived there, we saw a terrific opportunity, and when we started doing our due diligence, it seemed like it was probably one of the best places for us to be at the time, and we continued to carry on doing and conducting business there. We bought our first building in mid-year last year, and we sold it out to investors. The type of numbers that Cynthia will be showing you in a short while. When we did our last building, that one now has, I think it has 25 investors that purchased in that building, and the kind of cash flows and modeling have all proved up. So we feel very comfortable. We've been a little bit conservative in how we've approached this building. We purchased this building in July of 2013, and we went through the process of going through and remodeling it interior, exterior, from head to toe, doing a lot of work and doing a little bit of tenancy turnover. It was what we would have deemed to be an underperforming asset from a market revenue standpoint. The building was very solid. Just needed a little bit of what we call a lipstick or a makeover, just to bring some things more modernized and up to date, which also created the opportunity for us to not only turn over tenancy for revenue, but get it to market revenue. And by January 15th of this year, 2014, approximately 6 months later, we've achieved that goal, and we brought this building a full turnaround from what it was when we first purchased the property. The building has had, from a renovation perspective, like I mentioned, it's had All the exterior has been fully repainted. The decks have all been redone with what's called a two-part epoxy membrane. We have a reserve contingency fund study that was completed, and it's shown to be very well and consistent to having a good longevity of life. When we go into the interior common areas, we completely renovated all the common areas with the exception of the carpet, which was only about 4 years old when we first purchased the building. So we did all the lighting and all the painting and really sort of not modernized it, but got it up to a standard that should be a good rental building. And then we went into all units. We have one unit in the building that didn't get renovated, but everything in every unit has been replaced if it's less than 5 years old. Oh, sorry, older than 5 years old. Out of all of that, the only other things that happened prior to us purchasing the building was the roof is about 4 years old, and about 2.5 years ago, all the windows were replaced on the property. So they're all a vinyl, double glazed, triple A rated windows. So what else I can tell you about the building is it's in a great location. Very centralized. When we were conducting our due diligence, when we got the building under contract for purchase, we found that it was close to all amenities. It had all the right service aspects to it, and it was, from an inspection standpoint, it came through glowing colors as well. So as far as anything like that, the building itself is a typical, I forgot to actually say, you can switch over on each one of these slides here there, Cynthia, so thank you on that. Typical 1-bedrooms, typical 2-bedroom layouts. These are the finished products. We didn't change any of the ceramic tile flooring. The durability and the neutral colors meant that it could complement what we were doing in renovations. The kitchen cabinets have all been refinished. They were a hardwood cabinet. So instead of replacing what was better quality that we could replace with today, and not that it's an excessive cost, but the actual cabinets are probably a far better quality than what you can see today, being that they're a 30-year-old cabinet. As I said, I mentioned appliances, if they were less than 5 years old, have been replaced. And all paint throughout, new lighting if it hadn't been replaced, and if the carpets were in any state of disarray or they were older than 5 years old, we replaced them. Going into the bathrooms, we did replace some vanities. Jumping onto the property management piece here, Chris Moscalic is somebody we've identified as she's a gal who came from managing about 500 units for one of the major oil-based companies out of Fort Mac that actually owned their own properties to house their own employees. So she's got a good wealth of experience. She's been about 18 years in the industry. About 4 years ago, she moved to Cold Lake. It's either 4 or 5 years. And she started off with kind of taking it easy, but then got a little bit of an itch, and about 1.5 years ago, she started up the leasing management end for Coldwell Banker Home Team Realty, which is a real estate company in town, because she saw the demand, and she knew that there was some challenges with the type of management services that were being supported in town. So she's a great individual. She's got great contacts in the oil industry. So what we've seen to have found is that larger contractor companies like JB Driver and a couple of the other ones, when they're looking to bring the bodies into town, as per se, to take on a new contract, she seems to be one of their first point of contacts. Not to say that she's the only one, because it's a very tight market, but she does seem to get those contacts, and we do see them in our leasing, in the copies of the leases that we receive from her. So what else can I tell you? If we can hold it right there, I just want to go back to one thing. In January of 2014, at the very beginning of January, and this should give you an indicator, as I mentioned to you, we turned over the building, 20 suites, 19 out of the 20 turned over, and we renovated all those suites. Well, we came into a pipeline crux, which we were very concerned about, and that was, coming into a December and January and February market crunch. There's a lot of people who aren't actually looking at working or bringing their contracts to town. They're usually waiting for a bit of the thaw. We thought we were going to have a bit of a challenge because we had 11 units that we'd renovated throughout the months of November, December, and the beginning of January. We did a marketing blitz, and it really wasn't much. It was just a lot of online posting and keeping on top of it. And by February 1st, we had every single unit leased up, and the whole building is occupied. I don't know if you want me to step in and talk about it.
Yeah, if you want to talk, you
thing.
basically know this is the rents that are being achieved in the suites, and these are actual rents.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, to
These
talk...
are actual rents.
Right, so this is 100% occupied, and it was leased up within, was it 11 suites in 1 month? Which should give everyone a really good indication of the pace at which the absorption is happening, and that's usually a very strong indicator that the market is very good for rental. So at the price points, $176,000, getting you $1,600 in monthly rent. Everyone can do the math. We're going to go through an actual worksheet. This is an incredible opportunity. Strong, positive cash flow. How many of the one bedrooms do you have left, Jason? Like, I know there's do you know?
I think there may be 4 left.
And then how many 2 bedrooms?
5.
Okay, so we've got roughly 9 units available, and it's pretty much 50-50 split. For those of you on the call that may be interested.
We opened, just so everybody has an understanding, we opened this up 10 days ago. So we're running at a sales ratio of about a unit per day.
So this is just a sample 2-bedroom cash flow, and for all of our clients, and for anybody, we do have more in-depth ones, but this is just a general overview for the purpose of this presentation. You're looking at $1,800 a month, vacancy 2%. We always factor vacancy, even if it is 0. Please note that you do get your actual rents, but in terms of, for illustration, we do calculate a vacancy. Condo fees are, for the 2 bedrooms, are around $312. That includes the heating. So this being an older building, it doesn't have separate meters. So we have, condo fees are including that. Property taxes, the estimates based on comparable properties and property taxes from 2013. Mortgage payment at a 3.5% rate. I think mortgage rates, you can get them around 3% now. And then we have an optional rental management program, which is the after asset management that we offer clients, and I'm going to go a little bit more into that. But it does help you mitigate the risk of vacancy. So we always put in leasing, repairs, and maintenance. Most of the suites have been renovated and they're in very good condition, but you're always going to have your minor repairs. And then there is some cost to leasing. Now, I do know that most property managers nowadays are online, using the online version rather than newspapers, so that cost has dramatically dropped over the last few years. So to look at this in terms of, I think, pretty conservative numbers, you're looking at about $450 cash-on-cash return. So we want to talk about it in percentages. I mean, a 9.5% cash-on-cash yield is unheard of in any other market that we currently offer. Couple that with mortgage paydown and factor at about a 3% appreciation. The building's a little older, so even though we're maybe in a market that's a 5%, 6% appreciation, we've toned it down to 3%. So you're looking at, a very, very strong return with a big part of it that you actually feel at 9.5%. A lot of my clients bought into the first project that Jason and Aaron offered in the summer, and they're exceptionally happy at the cash flows. So summarizing, good location, great economy, and we say it's probably our top investment market for cash flow right now, and we don't see that ending anytime soon. We love Alberta. Alberta is definitely a very business province that gets a lot of capital investment, and although it may go through its ups and downs, it always recovers and has been leading the nation year over year for many, many years. I think it's close to 20 years now. And we offer the fully managed options. So if you're interested, I suggest that you email the sales representative that either Andrew, Trevor, Drew, myself, email one of us, and put a reservation in. This will hold the unit for up to 72 hours. Within that time, you have to sign a contract and submit, and there's a $5,000 deposit due upon final subject removal. We do allow up to 3 weeks for financing. We find that it does take time these days. Mortgage rates have tightened somewhat, and it can close up, within 8 weeks from signing the offer. I mean, you're out of province for most of you are from BC, so you have documentation and you have to get things back and forth. But we usually give about 8 weeks to close. And maybe what I'll do is right now, and I thought there was a slide. Sorry, Andrew. I thought we changed our presentation a bit. The after asset management works so that for those of you that don't know, all of our investors are offered the opportunity to participate in a rental program. The rental program pools all the revenues and distributes based on your unit entitlement or the size of your suite. So a 1-bedroom unit gets a certain amount, 2-bedroom gets a little bit more. If your suite's vacant 1 month, you still are getting revenue. So this is an excellent way for you to mitigate that risk of vacancy. The program is very easy to follow. You get a complete financial picture every month of the total gross revenues, all of the expenses related to that, and then on the back side of the statement, you'll get a snapshot of what your unit did. But it's well worth it for people that live outside of the area that they're investing. Also, it includes excellent property management for clients.
Here's how you create a real estate investment portfolio. Using detailed research and analysis, Strategic Investment Realty selects markets with the highest growth potential. We then choose top quality, well-selected properties that demonstrate substantial investment value. You choose one investment property at a time to start building your portfolio. Add a variety of investment properties over time in geographically diverse markets, creating a retirement income you may never outlive. It's the most advanced real estate wealth creation system in North America. Strategic Investment Realty, simplifying investing in real estate for you.